In this video, we're diving into what makes Manor Lords such a historically accurate game. The way Manor Lords distributes armor and weapons to its villagers is an attempt to reflect the medieval reality where individuals were expected to provide their own equipment for battle. Historically, a soldier's armor and weapons reflected their personal wealth. In medieval army, soldiers came from a variety of backgrounds, and their equipment largely depended on their wealth and social standing. A wealthy knight could afford a full-plate armor, custom-forged swords, and well-bred war horses, often supplied by skilled blacksmiths and armorers. Professional men-at-arms who served as full-time soldiers typically had chainmail or partial-plate armor, along with weapons like long swords, polearms, and crossbows, provided either by their employer or through their own savings. In contrast, militia members, who were often farmers, merchants, or tradesmen called into service during times of war, had to rely on whatever weapons they could afford. Some wealthier towns and guilds might pool resources to equip the militia with spears, bows, or simple armor. But many had to fight with repurposed farming tools, padded cloth armor, or second-hand weapons. This system meant that while noble and professional troops often had high-quality equipment, peasant levies and town militia were much more varied in their arms and armor. It is likely that the game aims to simulate this system. However, it does not implement a personal wealth system for each villager. Instead, the burgage plot level is used as a representation of economic status. In reality, villagers who could not afford a sturdy tiled roof is unlikely to be able to afford expensive chainmail either. While it may seem odd that a storehouse worker will not hand over a mail armor to a villagers unless they have a rooftop tiled house, this mechanic is designed to reflect the idea that those unable to upgrade their home also lack the means to acquire high-end military equipment. By tying armor access to burgage level, Manor Lord effectively simulates the social stratifications that determine who could afford different level of protection in medieval warfare. The burgage plot system is a defining feature of Manor Lords, reflecting the historical urban planning of medieval towns, particularly in the 14th century Europe. In medieval cities, landowners, often the lord or the monarch, would lease narrow, elongated plots of land, known as burgage plots, to merchants and commoners. These plots typically features a house at the street front, while the rear areas were used for workshops, gardens, or small-scale farming. The system was common across England, France, and part of Germany, allowing efficient land use where prime street frontage was occupied by businesses or homes, while the back areas remained productive in other ways. The structures of these plots influenced the organic and often irregular layout of medieval towns, and rent was typically paid in cash or goods to the landowner. In Manor Lords, this system is directly implemented by requiring players to assign burgage plots to villagers, mirroring the historical practice of leasing land. In return, the villagers have to pay taxes to you, the lord. The first 2 points in making the layout will always be the house, representing the medieval practice that the front portion served as housing or storefront, while the back can be used for workshop, gardens, replicating medieval town layouts. The expansion and prosperity of a town depend on the proper allocations of burgage plots, enforcing the historical importance of planned, yet organic settlement growth. Crop rotations in Manor Lord is based on historical agricultural practices that were essential for maintaining soil fertility, maximizing food productions, and controlling pest population. During the medieval period, farmers commonly used a free-field system or variations of it to prevent soil depletion and improve yields. Fields were divided into 3 sections, one planted with wheat, barley, or rye, and another with legumes or oats to replenish nitrogen in the soil, and the third left fallow to allow it to recover. This method prevented the overuse of nutrients, reduced mass, and increased long-term sustainability, making it widely used in medieval Europe. By changing crops each season, pests that relied on a specific plant, such as the wheat weevil or the oat aphid, were deprived of stable food source, leading to a natural decline in their population. Legumes played a crucial role in medieval crop rotations due to their ability to naturally restore soil fertility. These plants, such as peas and beans, absorbed nitrogen from the air and returned it to the soil, making the land fertile for the next cycle. This process helped maintain high crop yields, making legumes an essential part of sustainable medieval farming. The system was incredibly effective and widely used in medieval Europe before being improved using the four-field system that we know today. Within Manor Lords, players must rotate crops to maintain soil fertility, mirroring real medieval farming techniques. There is, however, no options to plant legumes or beans, which was actually essential to the system. However, cycling between rye and wheat worked quite well in the game. Failing to do so can result in lower yields, just as it did historically. You may think that makes farming unnecessarily complex. Well, it is complex, but hardly unnecessary. The tithe system in Manor Lords reflects the medieval practice of contributing a portion of one's agricultural produce to the church. Historically, tithes were a key part of medieval economic and religious life, often requiring peasants to give a tenth of their harvest or livestock. This contribution supported the clergy, maintained churches, and funded religious institutions. The method of payment varied between regions, with some communities giving goods while others converted their tithe into money. Religious institutions played a significant role in both social and economic life. Churches and monasteries provided benefits such as charity, education, and medical care, while also collecting taxes from the population by enforcing their influence over medieval society. Tithe and large donations also had political implications. Lords who contributed generously to the church could gain support for their territorial ambitions. The church might justify a claim by arguing that Lord was bringing stability, Christian rule, or protection to a disputed region. One example of this is the Norman conquest of Sicily in 1059. Pope Nicholas II granted Norman leader Robert Guiscard the title of Duke of Sicily, Calabria, and Apulia, legitimizing the Normans' expansion into southern Italy. However, such papal endorsement typically applied to claims over non-Christian lands or for rulers who had been excommunicated. For example, when Pope Gregory VII excommunicated Emperor Henry IV in 1076 over disputes concerning the appointment of bishops. These excommunications not only stripped Henry of religious legitimacy but also destabilized his political authority. Many bishops who had once supported Henry defected to the Pope, and oppositions among the nobility grew rapidly. The conflict escalated further when German nobles opposing Henry started to appoint Rudolf of Rheinfelden as anti-king in 1077. This rivalry led to open warfare, culminating in the Battle of Elster in 1080. This series of events demonstrate how the church's power to excommunicate rulers could fuel internal rebellion and even military conflicts among Christian lords. In Manor Lords, tithes functioned in a similar way. Layers can allocate part of their food surplus to the church, which grants influence, a resource used for expansion. This mechanic reflects historical realities, where rulers who contributed to the church gained political legitimacy. However, mismanaging tithe by overburdening villagers can lead to starvations, which mirror the dissatisfactions that often arose in medieval society due to heavy church taxation.